Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 40 of Parenting Autism. We love doing this podcast for you, and I'm your host, Chris Coulter, and I'm joined by my lovely wife, Sandy.
Hello.
And so we're going to talk about whatever's current going on with us right now and hopefully spread some encouragement over the radio waves.
There we go. So, yes, today, well, first of all, I want to welcome anybody that this is your first time finding us and tuning in, and we appreciate that. This podcast is really just Chris and I sharing our journey with our son, Bryce, who is now 6.5 and was diagnosed with autism when he was 2.5. So we're about 4 years into this journey, and we have just felt it laid on our hearts to just share, and we hope that our story is able to provide encouragement and information for others, just like we've found along the way. And right now, present time, there's a lot going on in the world and in the United States and in Florida, and it's getting closer and closer. And now we have COVID-19 cases in Port St. Lucie, which is where we live. So when we recorded a couple of weeks ago, we briefly mentioned it because it really had not impacted us in our world. I was just starting to see the hints of it at my place of employment. And right after we did that recording, our company had to lay off 80% of our employees. So we've been hit in a really hard way financially. And we've had to, take pay cuts as well just to keep a job. And we're grateful for that. But yet there's still a lot of stress that comes with all of this and the uncertainty of when will things change. Mm-hmm. And while the government finally passed this bill to, put some money into the pockets of people who have been laid off and for the businesses, we really don't see, how soon that's going to help us or how it's going to be. We're trusting in God. We are people of faith. Mm-hmm. And we've had to trust in God for many things before. In fact, the message we heard this morning as we watched church online was talking about how God prepared David to fight Goliath by having him fight bears and lions before he faced the giant. And I feel like you and I have had a lot of things to prepare us to test our faith for something like this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like we've had the battles with Bryce and his health, and first he had the stroke after he was born, and then we had the autism diagnosis, and we've just had a lot of things that has tested our faith. But this is something that's new, totally beyond our control, but we're just taking it day by day. And that's really what I am doing. I told you I will think one day ahead. Yeah. And that's about the extent that I will let myself go right now.
And for those of you out there that don't know where to get church online, feel free to join us as we watch our church. It's www.gochristfellowship.com. There you can find all the information about the church that we attend. We have a Port St. Lucie campus here in Port St. Lucie, but that's all been shut down, and now they're doing online-only services. So if you go to the website, you can find the services there, and they also have a podcast. So
it's also on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube also?
They're doing that now as well.
So it's really good messages. And like today was about David and Goliath. It was a good message.
Yeah, and it's talking about changing the way that we see things and the words that we say, because it's all about perspective. Mm-hmm. And, that applies to our autism journey, which we talk about often, our perspective and how we go through this. And it also, it applies to the coronavirus and something that is beyond our control, but how we see things and how we say things makes all the difference,
Yeah. Disclaimer, Bryce is here watching a movie, so he may pop in at any time.
Yes, Chris is our sound person, so he always hears all these little sounds in the background, and so it can't be perfect today.
Oh, that's okay.
But,
Yeah, no worries. But we want to give everybody out there some encouragement that, if you have faith like we do in God, then there's not as much fear in our lives about what's happening right now. We know that God has a plan through all of this, and he's working his plan. We don't know what the end result is or why it's happening right now, and we may never know why this occurred, this virus that's going around the world. We may never know why the Lord let it happen, but he is, and we just got to go with his plan and trust in him.
That's it. We just trust in that and trust and pray that we come out stronger and better because of it. And speaking of that, in perspective and what you see and how you do, I mean, if you actually have the virus, I'm sure that's a whole different perspective. So if anyone's listening and you've actually experienced it, or you have family members that's totally different than our situation where we're healthy. We're just practicing the social distancing to a very large degree. We're not visiting my parents. So Bryce has to FaceTime his grandparents, which he's used to being able to see them because they are local. It's different than when your kids aren't used to it because they live in different states. But for Bryce, this is a lot of adjustments for him. He's doing church online. But, like last night, we normally, for our date night, we'll go out to dinner. Well, you can't go out and dine in a restaurant now. So we ate in, and then I just had the idea that we would grab our Scrabble board, which we haven't had that out in a long time, and took a blanket and went to one of our local parks out near the water before sunset. It was nice outside, and we were able to just peaceful. It was us. People were walking around, but not near us, and we were able to take advantage of something that we otherwise maybe would not have thought to do, and family time and spending this time with Bryce and each other. And our schedule has slowed down quite a bit, especially in the evenings, because we would either be going to visit family or we would be doing other things,
or doing something,
or our photography business. That's definitely, the brakes are on there. We're not doing anything there. So we have found ourselves with more time than we've been accustomed to having. But I'm like, what a gift. Let's look at this as a gift, because this really can be a gift of time. So again, if you're sick and you're not feeling well, that's different. But if you're healthy and it's just a matter of you're trying to prevent from getting the sickness, then try, to look at all those positive things. That's kind of where I'm at on that.
It is probably quite different for most of the kiddos out there that have autism right now, because a lot of their therapies are being cut, or, people are in quarantine, and the kids, they don't know what's going on. And in our case, it's hard to convey to Bryce what is going on. You just can't tell him, well, there's a virus going around and we're self-quarantining,
He doesn't understand
He just doesn't understand that concept. So we've just used the term that people are on vacation. And,
places are closed and people are on vacation.
Yeah, the places
You've
are closed.
You've used that a lot. Okay.
I think he's
calling for you.
For me? Okay.
Yes, let's pause.
We'll be right back.
Okay, we're back. So with Bryce, we have had a really busy schedule with him. And fortunately, we haven't had to have too many changes. And it's our choice, actually, to do that, because surprisingly, his therapy place where he gets his speech and language and his occupational therapy, they've remained open. I thought they would close. I was kind of waiting. I said, every day that Bryce gets his therapies is a good day in my book. And what we have found is that there are now parents who are not bringing their children for whatever reasons they're choosing, and maybe social distancing, or maybe it's too much in their schedule, but the therapists are healthy and they are there.
And they're sanitizing, they're practicing the safe distancing between the kids and all that. So.
And you and I have talked about it, and I really feel like, again, every day that Bryce is able to have his therapies is a good day, that we can keep him in there, and that prevents him from regressing. And Bryce has actually, last week, started getting a little more therapy there because their schedule has opened up. So now he gets even a little bit more time than he was previously.
Yeah.
And we know that's temporary, but we're taking the blessings from this, and everyone is staying healthy in our home. And so that's great. So that's his languages and his OT. And then with his ABA, that's deemed, what do they call it? A necessary.
Yeah, medically necessary.
Or essential service.
Yeah.
So again, they come to our home. Bryce doesn't go to an ABA center, which would be a different environment.
Yeah.
But they actually come to our home, and he has one tech right now, and then his BCBA. And so again, they're being very conscientious about everything and the children that they are still servicing, and making sure that no one in the house is sick, and not even a cold, that sort of thing. So far, Bryce has been able to keep all of that. The horse therapy was suspended for a couple of weeks while they were working on some stuff. Plus, it kind of coincided with our spring break here locally. But that will start back up this Friday. They've agreed to that, and there's really not many people there either. So it's like really low risks in that way. And then his music therapy, he had missed last Saturday, but yesterday we actually did it online, and I posted on social media to show that on our Instagram and our Facebook, because I think it's just really cool that Bryce was able to do that
and
with Mr. Tom yesterday. Yeah. And I thought it all in all really went well.
Yeah.
I mean, he stayed engaged. It seemed like a bit longer for Bryce because there wasn't the setup time and the breakdown time. So at a certain point, Bryce was like, can we do the goodbye song? I thought he asked a couple of times, but it was really good.
Yeah.
And so, we're just really doing our best to keep him in a regular routine. And then with church, that's a big part of his routine as well. And so this is the third Sunday that the church has not been open. So last Sunday, his buddy, Miss Debbie, she said, well, what if we do FaceTime? And she got the video that Bryce is used to, because there's a video series for the kids. And so they were able to do their songs together and the lesson. And just as he lays on the floor and loses interest during the lesson at church, he does the same thing here. But he's listening, but he's kind of like, okay, I want the music, the more fun things. But it's worked out fine. And she's willing to do that. So he gets to see her. He looks forward to it. So we've really just done our best to keep some normalcy.
Yeah. I think my only concern is with this virus that it is invisible, and you could have the virus, not know it, and be spreading it. So I do have some concerns of Bryce still interacting with some people, but there's only a handful of cases here in our whole county, and there's hundreds of thousands of people here.
Yes.
And that may be because there's lack of testing, maybe, who knows? Could be a myriad of reasons why we don't have as many cases as other areas, but we're very thankful for that. And we're not going into the stores, roaming around, looking to pick up the virus.
Well, we talked about that, because you even mentioned in passing, maybe we'll go to Walmart because Bryce needs new grips for his bicycle handles. I'm like, if that's not a necessity, that's where I don't want to go into a major place like that. Yeah. Like, we haven't even been in the grocery store for a while.
Right.
We packed up earlier, and we haven't had a large outbreak, but it could come. So, it's just using...
We're kind of following the government guidelines. They haven't shut his therapy down, so we're still going.
And you already did homeschooling, so that was a huge blessing for us, that we didn't have to transition to try to teach him online. Yeah. Where I understand the parents that have their kids in a regular, routine, and now they're having to do it at home without therapists and without supports. Boy, my heart goes out to everybody that is in a more impactful situation than we're in.
And for those parents that had their kids in school and now have them at home, basically what we do in homeschool, you do not need to spend 8 hours a day of homeschool. And that's what I learned early on from other homeschool parents and homeschool curriculums and programs, is that while your kid is normally in school from 8 to 2 or 8 to 3 or whatever, you don't need to teach them that long for them to get it. One thing is that you're one-on-one with your child, and they're getting your sole attention, and you can move through things rather quickly depending on the child. So Bryce absorbs things. He has a great memory, so he gets a lot of the concepts right away. So we do sight words in our Bible verse in the morning, along with handwriting, and then we'll go into a computer lesson. We use a couple of different programs online. One is timeforlearning.com. It's a great curriculum that Bryce seems very acclimated to. Another is Reading Eggs and Math Seeds. They're all in one website, and I think it's readingeggs.com, so you can go there. And then lastly, ABC Mouse is what they call it, is free right now because of all the people that are homeschooling. So if you have a young kiddo like we do with Bryce, who's 6 or around that age, these websites can help you tremendously. And it's not really expensive to pick up a few months of the program through the website, and then when this is all over, you can get them back into regular school. Or you may find that you're in a new situation where
it's working.
Hey, homeschooling is working so much better. Your family dynamic has changed. Maybe, unfortunately, maybe somebody lost a job or got hours cut back, and then you figure out, well, hey, I can use this for homeschooling or what have you. You know, it's fortunately we were already on this path when all this went down with the virus, and we really haven't missed a beat with that, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah. So that is good for us, for sure. Mm-hmm. And those are good tips for other parents out there that maybe they don't have a curriculum or they're looking for things to help their kids. So I'm glad you put that out there. So the other thing I want to talk about that's happened just in the past couple of weeks, and it happened this past week, we talked about ABA a lot in the last couple of episodes because I know I vented a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And, I was really, really concerned because I knew that his 6-month review was coming up, and I was concerned that they weren't going to see the need for Bryce's behavior issues because, again, he doesn't perform on demand.
Right.
Well, so it happened that he had major meltdowns and they were here. So yay, in the sense that they saw it. Mm-hmm. I was actually glad about that for a couple of reasons. I think one, because they needed to see it. Mm-hmm. And help him work through it. And also removing you from it.
Right. And it also helps us seeing what they do in that situation.
It helps you see because you were here, I was at work, what they did in the situation and how he responded to it. Mm-hmm. But it also confirmed and gave affirmation that he doesn't just do it because of us. Because sometimes there's been that implication that, well, kids will behave one way around their parents, but not around others. And I know there is truth to that with neurotypical kids and
even him.
Yeah. That there's things that he'll do with us, that maybe to push a button or things he'll say or whatever, or certain routines he expects, but he won't do it with others. But, he has his issues with other people too. He's just pretty well protected. I think that's why it doesn't happen as often, which we discussed with Miss Kim, who is his BCBA. So anyway, the fact that she was able to see all of that, actually both of them did. So it happened to be that his BCBA and the tech were here.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Perfect.
And then she helped him work through that. We got some tips out of that, which was good. But that led into his 6-month review. And I, for the first time, was actually excited when the review was done. And I didn't feel depressed or sad or like a failure as a mom, because I have felt that way probably every prior time that we've had this. And not because of anybody's position, we've loved everybody we've worked with, but when these questions get peppered to you over and over and you're having to answer no, rarely, never, sometimes, maybe.
And some of these things that they ask you, A, you don't understand the language that they're asking you in, so they put it in layman's terms. And then B, it's just some normal everyday things that you wouldn't even think that were off or off, you know. And
that's what we've experienced before. And this kind of makes me think about, because the questions this time, she did a different assessment. And she did something with a pyramid, and then she was filling up a pyramid. So it was very different than what we've had before. So again, you and I have talked about this, but for parents that are listening that are newer on this journey, it really has been a new season that we're in. I can't compare this to the age 2 to age 5. It's been very different since he's turned 6. And when they did this assessment, he had just had his 6th birthday. So, I feel like all the questions and all the things that were looked at and worked on and assessed, very different than where we're at now. And the positive thing is that, he's been mastering so many of the things that were in his last 6-month plan. So now they're going to this other level, which now we're focusing less on some of the more basics, but getting in a little deeper now.
Especially into social.
They're definitely focusing on the social part and, learning. Again, he just has a hard time with adjusting to the word no, like who doesn't? But Bryce does on a whole other level, but again, it would be great to have this for all children. But for Bryce, he really needs that help of transitioning when things aren't going the way he's expecting them to go. And I think that's more of what it is. It's because he can handle, I don't know, Bryce, he's a pretty laid back kid in so many ways. That's what I was going to say. He doesn't get angry easily. We've talked about it before. He's more sensitive to where he cries. In fact, his tantrum by his text the other day was when she described when Bryce just pours on these tears because he's so devastated that something like he didn't get to turn the page of the book and you did.
Right.
He doesn't get angry or slam anything. He just like breaks down and breaks your heart as he's sitting there bawling. So the first time he did that to her, she was like, oh no, and then she like let him do whatever as he wanted to do. And then she realized, oh my goodness, this is his form of tantruming to get his way, basically. So we can't, as much as it breaks your heart, you have to help him work through those times when he's really crying. And that's what happened last weekend when we were playing the game and he didn't win or he didn't get to deal, like so many things. So, I feel like we're just getting new goals to work on. And I was really excited about that. And we haven't seen the written plan yet. And I know they have to write it in the terms that the insurance company wants to see it, but we know what we're working on. And I feel like we're just all on the same page. And I feel compelled to say this again on the podcast for somebody that's listening, this may help them. I just want to say that I personally felt like I was racing a clock for 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like when Bryce was first diagnosed, we were told you have to do this, and this, and you need to try all these things. It was like you felt like if you didn't get all the right answers before he turned 6 years old, that his brain would stop taking in the new information at the same speed and things were going to change and your window was going to close and who he was who he was going to be. And that's really my interpretation of all the advice and the information that we were hearing from medical, from parents, all of that. And I didn't realize how much that I was racing that clock in everything that I was doing until he turned 6. And that's why when he turned 6 and then he didn't make it in kindergarten and we had to do the homeschooling, it spiraled me into my first depression on this journey because I thought the window closed and that was it, you know, and I was accepting like, okay, that's it, and we've gotten this far and this is great. And we love Bryce for who he is and how he is. But now I don't feel exactly that way. Now I'm excited because I just feel like we're in a new season.
He's still growing.
He's still growing, and maybe it's a different pace. And I'm sure that's medically true and proven that, our brain is designed to take in information that's, when we're younger. And then I think even when you're older, there's proven that there's another time that your brain starts taking in information at a rapid pace again before you're a teenager. But he's still growing. He's still learning. and we're just working on different things.
I'll say that what we've seen with Bryce is these, and I don't even know what to call them, not necessarily growth spurts, but, he's not
a physical
growth spurt, but a mental
Yes,
growth
I have
spurt,
seen mental growth spurts.
So you witness those from time to time, and I think we're going through one now.
Yes.
And just earlier today, Sunday's our day of rest, so I was laying on the couch relaxing, and Bryce came over. He was watching his movie in the other room, and then all of a sudden he came over and he says, "Daddy, are you feeling okay?"
And he said it just like that.
Yeah, I was like, "What? Wow." I said, "Yes." I said, I'm just feeling tired. Thank you for asking, though." And I was just floored because, he was paying attention to me when I didn't even know he was paying attention to me. Like, he knew I was in the other room.
Yes.
And he came and sought me out to ask me if I was feeling okay.
He cared. He showed empathy.
Yes. Yeah. And that's huge. And just little things that we're seeing here and there that are new, that are just very reassuring. And he is still learning. He's still developing. And we got those, along the way from when he was diagnosed until now. Once in a while, you'll get one of these spurts where they just
talking
surprise
more
you
or engage more. We've seen that, like, where he's not in his own world as much, and then we saw him come out of his world.
Yeah.
I think I just want to give that encouragement that just don't put that extra pressure on yourself that you're racing a clock, because it can happen, and you can feel like, oh my gosh, we're making no progress, or,
right.
I'm seeing regression, or even if you're not seeing regression and it slows down, you're going to get another spurt.
We've seen regression.
Very likely. Yeah.
Bryce has gone back to some old things once in a while, and then he moves on. But just don't put the pressure on yourself.
Yes, that's what
all you can do is all you can do. That's it. You can do only what you can do for your child.
And if you know that you're doing all that you can do, okay.
Then just let it ride.
Let it ride, invest. And again, every child's going to develop at their own pace, their own pace, and respond to different things. And again, I don't try to give a whole lot of advice on here because it's too difficult, because every child and every family is so different, but I can give encouragement.
And we can share our experience with Bryce.
We can share our experience. And I'm just saying that I know that personally, I've just really felt like, I just really felt that racing against the clock thing. And it's been on my mind, like, somebody needs to hear that, that, it's okay. Yeah,
you won't hear us on here going, "Hey, this is the new gadget. Go out and get it right now because this is awesome." We don't, that's not
We don't
us.
endorse a whole lot of things. We just share our stories. But especially those who are approaching that sixth birthday, that's who I'm speaking to right now, because they may just be thinking, what's going to happen next, or now parents are going through this situation with their kids not in the school, and they're worrying about regression, and that's natural right now. So you're thinking, oh, and is this how I would have been if this had happened 1 year ago, 2 years ago, even 3 years ago? I would have been more in a panic, because I would have been like, oh my gosh, he's losing days. He's losing days at school. He's losing days at therapy. He's losing this. He's losing that. He can't afford to lose any time at all. And we went through that, like when he lost his therapies because of insurance, and, all that panic was there because I felt like that clock was ticking louder and louder and louder the closer he got to his 6th birthday. And now I've learned that
I couldn't hear the clock in your head. So
you couldn't, and you didn't know, and I didn't really talk about it. I mean, you were hearing the same things, but it just affected you in a whole other way.
Yeah, I was just like, you know what? I'm out of my depression, and I kind of felt like this is the way that it was going to go, and I was prepared mentally.
Yeah, and I've heard other parents talk about feeling that same clock and pressure. And so I know it exists outside of me.
Sure.
As
Absolutely.
you listen to these things.
It did for me too. Like after he was diagnosed, I was like, oh, I got to stick my nose into books and the internet and find single thing I can about autism so I can help Bryce. And I did that for months, and until I felt like we were on a plan that we were doing what we could for him. And even then, I was laser focused on him. Okay, is he moving forward? Is he moving forward? That's all I wanted. I wanted to see progress, And then I don't know. I just went down into that deep hole, and you can listen to the other episode about depression. But I went down there, and I was knocked down because I put all that pressure on myself. And then when I got out of that, I felt like I was up on a horse and I was ready to gallop again. And this time I was leaving it to God in his hands, and I had to take the pressure off of myself so that God could take over. Basically, I put myself in the passenger seat and let God drive the car because he has the plan. He made Bryce. He knows every hair on his head.
He knows his timetable.
Yeah. And Bryce, what's not to love about him? Just love him to death. And he's him.
He is him. Yep. And even now, I've been saying every day that Bryce has his therapies is a great day. And that's true. But if something changes, and it could, if there's a larger outbreak in our city, which could very well happen, because
probably will.
I actually expect it to happen, then the therapies will shut down, and he won't have that every day. It's okay. It's going to be.
It'll be fine.
Yeah,
it
will be okay.
Yep.
We will get through this, and we will come through this stronger. So, but back to his plan, I have to say, I'm so excited that we're really going to be focusing a lot more on his social and finding more tools for that. And, we were even talking about it because here we are, I'm like all gung-ho and saying, okay, I'm going to put together this social calendar.
Oh, my goodness.
And we're going to be meeting every Saturday. And I was hooking up dates for you, to go. And his texts were all ready. And they're like, yeah, we're on board. And then here comes this national crisis.
And we're telling Bryce all along, okay, this weekend you're going to have so-and-so, and this weekend we're having so-and-so. And then when we get to that day, he's like, okay, my friend so-and-so is coming up. Well, no.
They had to cancel.
What happened? And Bryce is all about the calendar right now with Google. We have this Google Home thing. And so he has Google bring up the calendar every day to see what's on our calendar. And, if something's on there and it's been canceled, it's, he
has to cancel it.
Yeah.
And he wants to hit the button, but then he'll talk about it for days. So-and-so to come to play at 4:00, they couldn't come, and he remembers 2 weeks later. So we're running into this. We're going to be really careful what we put on the calendar.
Yeah.
But, I was planning all these things, and I have parents on board, and we were going, and now we have to do the social distancing. But we're going to get back on that. And I'm really excited about that for him. But I was saying, how about in the meantime, can, his ABA team work with him with social stories and show him, because he's very responsive to that. Like, he just needs to know how to interact. He doesn't know what to say. So now he's to the point that he can say, hi, what's your name? And I've witnessed him doing it with adults, sometimes with peers. He's more drawn to adults for whatever reason, but he will say, hi, what's your name?
We're on a walk around the block passing random strangers, and we just say hi, but he stops them. Hi, what is your name? Okay, what's her name?
And that's all he gets, because that's all he knows to ask right now. He doesn't
know what to do after that.
At least he doesn't ask them to play tag. I'm surprised, but, because that's what we're talking about, the playground.
Right.
But so he knows now if he meets somebody, he wants to know what your name is, which is great.
Yeah. And then he says it.
And then he'll repeat the name.
Yeah.
Then they'll ask him, well, what's your name? Which is the natural response. He's still not very smooth on that. We'll usually give him a couple minutes, or as he's walking away, he'll say Bryce Coulter. He'll mumble it.
Yeah.
He does not have that concept. So that's what I want them to work with him in. Okay, hi, what's your name? Then he knows to say, oh, my name is Bryce. What's the next question he should generally ask? Sometimes he'll say, how are you doing? He asked me that this morning when we woke up, you know. But, you know, teaching him how to initiate conversations, that's something that we're going to be working on. And that'll be the new plan, and watching him grow from there. And she talked also about what I had mentioned before about interwebbing and asking those different questions, because yes, we have language, but can we get conversation? So she was asking us, do you think if you ask him what animal has stripes, would he know that? I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. Because that's never come up in a conversation for him to learn, or AKA memorize, which is what he does.
And he doesn't like the zoo, so it's not like we're at the zoo all the time.
Animals not like, I don't think he pays any attention to what has spots and stripes.
No.
He knows what a stripe is, and he knows what a spot is, and he knows what an animal is, but he doesn't put all that together. But we did test him a little bit, like, well, tell me something that's red. And he did name something that was red that was familiar to him. But if you go to topics that are not familiar to him at all, he blanks out.
And I think, you know, he just doesn't have a lot of these topics because he hasn't learned them from social interactions. You know, if he was a typical kiddo at the playground, they might be talking about animals. Or,
I don't know, do they?
I don't know.
Where does it all come from?
Maybe the zoo. Maybe the.
I mean, really,
know.
that is a question.
But
is it because you're teaching him school lessons, so he should be getting topics about these kind of animals? Because I mean, I'm thinking on a playground, you kids aren't talking about animals and if they have stripes or spots.
But we played with animals when he was a kid, you know, with toys, and
he knew all that, and he knows the farm animals. In fact, he had lost all of that. That was part of his regression, because he used to know every animal sound.
I tried to get him to watch The Lion King the other night, and he was not interested.
Yeah, he's not drawn to animals very well. But then again, he is learning, like with the horses. And he's taking interest in the dogs now, and the puppies, because of Miss Debbie's puppies, and now Paw Patrol. That's kind of led to that. So I think we just keep trying, you know, kind of get him different things. And the beauty of that is the more we can expand his interest, which we've talked about before, but the more we can expand his interest, then the more possibilities he has for conversation with adults or children.
It's funny. I hear some of the conversations his ABA Tech has with them, and it's like, what do we use a lunchbox for? And well, he doesn't go to school, so he doesn't know what a lunchbox is, you know. Or when do we go to the cafeteria? At lunchtime. And well, he doesn't go to a cafeteria.
Although he might remember from before, but I know what you're
you
saying.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
he doesn't.
It's kind of funny.
He's got a little different situation.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and as we're talking, and I'm thinking, well, why doesn't he want to talk to kids his age? Like, he doesn't know what to say to kids his age, even though he does show some interest. Like, he wants to play. He loves to run and be chased. So that kids will do more than adult. I think he knows that, because we get tired. So he knows that he can play in that way with kids. But when I think about what he wants to talk about, he wants to talk about things that are electronic and mechanical. I mean, even when he's FaceTiming Mom the other day, he wanted to see her washer and her dryer. He wanted to see her clocks. He wanted to see where her thermostat was, because those are the things that he's interested in when he goes to her house, right? Mama, you doing laundry? Let's see your washer, you know.
Yeah.
He wanted to give her a tour of our washer and dryer, so he was explaining all the buttons to her the other day. Most 6-year-olds don't have an interest in that, and they're not even going to pretend to have an interest in that. Where an adult will at least pretend to have interest in his topics. But so maybe he draws to that.
Even still, he's not running around asking us, you know, all these questions. I guess he does sometimes. He'll ask us about things, but
all the time.
Yeah,
he's always asking us questions. Well, and thank God for Google Home, because we've kind of deferred him to Google Home, because he is always asking us questions. But he's wanting to learn.
Right.
But again, the questions, he's like, okay, this is actually a good conversation talking about this, because he is wanting to learn, right? What is he asking Google about? We hear it. He's saying, Google, what's a windmill?
What's a toaster oven?
What's a toaster oven? You know, he'll lead to all these different questions.
I don't know if he's absorbing it.
Well, but this is the stuff he's wanting to know.
Oh, yeah.
If he asks another kid this,
right,
that kid's not going to give him the time of day.
Right.
But if he asks an adult is most likely going to give him an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And if he has Google will give him answers all day long, which gives us a little bit of a break. But then he'll come back to us to ask us more questions. But his mind is more mature.
Yeah.
In the sense that he's wanting to learn about things that an adult is able to give him answers to more than kids, right?
Plus, it's not a conversation. It's not.
Oh, no.
I mean, he's asking us a question.
It's a quest for knowledge.
And then he's leaving, or he goes and does whatever he has. Yep. So it's not like a back and forth. Okay, well, this is a windmill. What's a windmill? And we tell him what a windmill is. Well, he doesn't come back and say, well, where do you find a windmill? Or how does wind make the windmill go around? It's not a back and forth. It's just a...
What does that mean? That's his follow-up on everything.
Right.
If you ask him and he wants to know more, he'll go, and that means...
Right.
And that means...
Sometimes.
Unless if he wants to know more.
Right.
But it's like you said, he doesn't follow up with the logical questions that we would think, which would be, oh, well, then,
right. And
where would I see one? Where is it at?
That leaves you to... going back to the other kids, he might, it's just...
I know, his mind just thinks differently. Yeah. And I think that's why he's less drawn there, but he does love to play. He does love to run. He loves, he loves that. He just, so I think he's very open to it, and that's great because a lot of kids probably shut down just because there isn't an interest. He does have interest in the play part. He just doesn't know how to have those conversations, but we're working on that, and that's all part of the plan, and it's all positive. And so I feel like in spite of all the gloom and doom that is out there right now, which is very legit, like Pastor Todd said today in the message, we have 24-hour news available to us, but that doesn't mean we should watch the news 24 hours. Get the information that you need, make wise decisions for yourself and for your family. But we're just trying to stay positive, and our perspective is to focus on the good things during this time, and we're grateful for Bryce, and we're grateful that he's doing well, and we're just praying that again that tomorrow will be another good day, and that his therapy places are open, and I can go to work, and trying to keep some normalcy. Just as Bryce said today, no, we just stay at the Coulter Hotel, which is what he calls our home. So, no black truck, because he's figuring out now we're not going anywhere. We're staying here. Yeah, that's what he was trying to say today. Yeah. And we are doing a lot more of that. But we're doing well. We're healthy. Praise God for that. And everyone that we know, we do not know anyone personally who has been infected with the virus. Right. And so we can count our blessings for that. And we do have our nephew who lives in Manhattan in New York City. So we've been, I've been checking with him, and, he said that he's hunkered down and staying in, but, that's probably the closest person that we have that is in, the thick of
epicenter.
It right now. Yeah. He's actually in the epicenter, and we'll be there. So, so anyway, that's what's going on here. We just wanted to do an episode to catch up, and we hope that you guys are staying safe, and Bryce may want to speak to wrap us up.
Come on in, buddy.
Come on in, honey.
We're in here.
We're getting ready to wrap up.
Yeah. And we'll do the bike.
You want to
do the bike today?
After the podcast.
Okay.
But Mommy?
Yes.
You will have to go. Mommy, you will have to. Daddy?
What?
I had to put the Siri on my iPad.
You want Siri on your iPad?
That's funny.
Okay. Do you want to say anything to our audience? You want to tell anybody anything?
Talk to the people?
Talk to the people.
Hi, people. You'll go to see the Bible verse to go have fun with me, Mommy.
Oh, okay.
And I have a new pencil sharpener.
Yes, you do.
I got something.
Yeah.
Well, nice. I'm glad you told everybody about your new pencil sharpener.
Bryce, what's coming in the mail on Tuesday?
What instrument?
What's the package?
A guitar.
Wow, what kind of guitar?
A black guitar.
And what kind of black guitar?
Electric guitar.
That is right. Because you're getting music therapy, and that's your favorite instrument, so we're getting you a little black guitar to play with.
It's going to be fun.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, everybody, have a great week. Stay safe.
Yes.
Take care. And we'll be back again soon.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Dad's all done.
Yep, I'm all done.
We're all done with the podcast.
Yeah, we're all done with the
Bryce
podcast.
finished.
Bryce, you finished it.
Yeah, we finished it.